Welcome to the first episode of RS Film Talk.
Yeah.
We're here today to talk about the hit film, Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, just from watching it, it was a great film, obviously. I think we both think that.
I think the whole world thinks that.
The whole world loves
I haven't
Oppenheimer
seen a single
at this point.
warranted bad review.
Yeah, everyone seems to love Oppenheimer at this point. What it really comes down to, though, is Barbie is going to gross like twice as much as it.
Which is kind of sad.
Which is absurd. Because my personal opinion, Oppenheimer is a better movie than Barbie.
Well, yes. If it comes down to it, I also feel like it is
But this is not a Barbie review.
outlandish to compare them.
Yeah, they're kind of completely different movies.
But that's for next time. We're gonna have a ranking.
We're gonna have a Barbie review.
We should have a 2023.
Yeah, we're going to.
ranking.
We're going to. But we're also gonna have a Barbie review.
So, we're going to start each reviews with this. What is your favorite aspect of Oppenheimer? Or your favorite scene, your favorite actor, standout, anything, or just anything. What's your favorite element from the
My
movie?
favorite standout.
What's
It's obviously there's a lot of places you could go with this, and we will get into Oscar possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just gonna we can kickstart the Oscar talk right now. Let's kickstart it with Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. had a fantastic role in this film. It proved he's not just Iron Man; he's just a great actor. Obviously, he was in Doolittle, but that wasn't really a hit. So he's been in other stuff. But this movie just showed.
Have you seen Doolittle?
I have seen Doolittle.
I haven't seen it, but I have no desire to.
Yeah, I have seen Doolittle. So this film just proved that he's just a great actor, and he's probably has best supporting actor in the bag at this point. There's other guys. Ryan Gosling. Was obviously great.
Again, it's funny to even say Robert Downey Jr. could have it, but he might lose to Ryan Gosling and Barbie playing it. Like, it's just
it's
weird to compare them. But yes, Ryan Gosling, I could see.
Yeah, there's other movies this year. Talk to Me, obviously, had a bunch of great supporting characters. Mission Impossible. There's gonna be a few people from Mission Impossible. The usuals. Tom Cruise, his whole gang, will probably get some nominations. So.
Besides that, Robert Downey Jr. could definitely.
Cillian Murphy is 100% getting nominated for best lead actor. He's 100%.
I don't know if he'd win. I could honestly
right now
see.
He's the front runner.
Right now, but 2023 is far from over. I could see Joaquin Phoenix getting best lead actor.
Oppenheimer is going to be a more popular movie than.
I think it's going to get best picture easily.
Oppenheimer. That's got
that's
that
in
in
the
the
bag.
bag. Best picture. It's got that in the bag.
So your standouts are Downey Jr.
My standout is Robert Downey Jr. Playing his role as I think it's Strauss.
Louis Stratus.
Stratus.
Strauss. People make a joke out of it in the movie. No one can pronounce it.
I haven't seen it in a few weeks, so I forgot the guy's name, or the pronunciation of the name.
Now, that's a lot of people's standouts, and it's warranted. Robert Downey Jr. was great. For me, however, I never thought of him really as just Iron Man. He was great, but I saw Oppenheimer a little later than everyone. I saw it about a week ago now, and it's been out for a little while.
I saw it 2 weeks ago.
So I could see, you see the movie shortly after it comes out and being blown away by his performance. It was great. But I had already heard everyone, and I mean everyone, just going on and on about Robert Downey Jr. is so great in this movie. It proves he's not just Iron Man. Everyone says that. They're not wrong. But I feel like after hearing everyone say it, I wasn't blown away by him. Versus if I would have just formulated that on my own by seeing it earlier than I did. Okay. My standout, the visuals are great in it.
Visuals are fantastic.
It's not too over the top to where it's realistic, unrealistic. But it's not average. It's not like your average Marvel movie where it's kind of just bland. Some would say, not just Marvel, but that's a common criticism people have. They just all look the same. They just look bland. This is not filmed bland at all. And I'm not even talking about the bomb testing sequence or any of the amazing visual achievements. Literally just scene to scene, it just looks great. The color grading is all there. And also the cast just as a whole, You got it's
It's a
amazing.
star-studded
It's a
cast.
star. I didn't even expect that. That was like the last thing.
There was like some just random characters that just
Like,
show up for like 2 seconds.
I
They're
couldn't
just
even-
great actors.
Tell you everyone who was in it, but you got Hugh from The Boys. That's great. You got Rami Malek, who I did not expect to be in it. Of course, Robert Downey Jr. Cillian Murphy's really grown as an actor. Because do you know off the top of your head a bunch of movies that Cillian Murphy was in besides
Batman Begins is the one
Yeah.
I think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I feel like this is almost a breakout role for him. He's been around for a while, but like nothing. He's never been in anything this successful or popular or just great of a movie since Batman Begins. But yeah, just the star-studded cast is definitely a surprise to me, but it was welcome.
So, yeah, about halfway through this video, there are a few more things I want to talk about. We'll get through about halfway through, and then we will actually start discussing the actual plot of the movie. So if you don't want spoilers, I'm warning you now. We will tell you when the exact cutoff is.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
What I wanted to talk about here.
Then again, you can't really. It's history. You can just look it up on Wikipedia. It's not really spoilers, but
Yeah. I want to talk about the grossing of this movie. Because this movie has now passed $850 million.
It's doing well, but then Barbie.
It's doing well. It's doing very well. The thing is, it's probably not going to hit $1 billion. There's a chance, but it has to make another $150 million in like the next week or so before it drops off the face of
I
the earth.
definitely feel like there's a point where everyone who
In
wants to
theaters, at
see
least.
it.
There will people that will buy it on Apple TV or Blu-ray or stuff like that. That it'll make over $1 billion total, but in theater, it's not going to make $1 billion. And
I don't think so.
the reason why Barbie, I think, made a ton of money, because Oppenheimer was just as hyped as Barbie.
It really was.
I think we all know the elephant in the room on why this film did not make as much money. It's because kids cannot see Oppenheimer.
Yeah, it's a
Under
much wider
any
audience for
under
Barbie.
any circumstance. Barbie, sure, there are discussions, jokes in Barbie that
They
maybe
would go over a kid's head.
They would go over a kid's head.
But that's not like
anyone
they can't see it.
Anyone can still see it. So what it comes down to is not everyone can see Oppenheimer. Like, there are visuals that kids just cannot watch. So
Florence Pugh, sorry.
yeah. So that's another star-studded actress.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh. Dude, I did not know that actually until like I read through the cast. I was like, oh, Florence Pugh's in this movie. I watched the film. I got out of the theater and I was like, oh wait, Florence Pugh's in this movie. And I looked back, who is she? Oh, that was her?
Yeah.
Like, you don't even know Florence Pugh is in this movie.
Well, yeah, and
I could not tell.
like kind of along those lines, you don't even know. You don't think about, like, it's a star-studded movie, definitely. There's tons of just, oh my gosh, it's him. But that wears off very quickly because of just how well they portray the different parts of the story. Like, it's not like offsetting or like weird at all that Robert Downey Jr. is playing like the second lead to the movie, basically. He just blends right in, plays his role perfectly. You forget that you're even watching actors. They do a really good job.
Yeah.
Especially like Cillian Murphy. Like, it just feels like Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, I mean, it was, yeah, obviously, just warning you now, the reason kids can't see it is there are some, obviously, graphic images that someone cannot see, and not in a violent way, in an inappropriate way. Kids cannot see. So, if you're thinking about taking your kids to Oppenheimer, just don't do it. So,
Give it
Oppenheimer.
This is very tough.
I mean, I think this is that point in the
We're
video.
talking about Christopher Nolan movies.
You got anything else to say before we get into the spoiler part of this review?
Is there any issues, without mentioning spoilers, that you have with it that are like worth mentioning that you
Issues
could talk
that I have
about?
with it? I think.
I mean, of course, it's not perfect. No movie is. So,
I
but
think
is there anything that's really worth talking about in your opinion?
I think it's about 30 minutes too long.
Yeah.
I felt that watching the movie. I was sitting in the theater. I didn't notice it was super long, but I noticed they spent about like an hour of runtime of Cillian Murphy walking around a lab saying, "Oh, we're building a bomb." Like, we get it. You're building a bomb. You don't need to say it 5 times and get some other people to say it. And then gaze really intensely into the ground while you have some visions of bombs in your head.
And the score just blasting,
yeah,
which, by the way, the score is great.
We're going to get into that's another thing I want to get into the spoilers. The way this movie, not even just the score, just the sound.
Yeah.
The way it uses sound and to just make it so much more intense. Like when he's showing the flashes of the atoms in the universe and all that. This isn't spoilers, but just the sound that you hear is
well, it's really
incredible.
utilized to tell the story. And I think now, well, real quick.
Now is the spoiler point.
Yeah.
Now is the spoiler point.
I was trying to think. I don't really have any major gripes with the movie. So yes, spoilers starting now. If you haven't seen Oppenheimer, you must be living under a rock. Go get out from under that rock. Watch Oppenheimer right now. Come back. Finish this. But for those of you who have seen it, stick around. My favorite scene in the movie, which ties into what you were saying about sound, is the interview after the bomb was after Hiroshima. And he's like you can see all the audience getting up and clapping and cheering, but you don't hear them, and
yeah, that's.
And he's like saying this stuff, and you can just see on his face. I can't even really describe.
And we'll get into that now. Let's start from the beginning and go through the film.
Okay, yeah.
At the beginning, the movie kicks off.
In the beginning. With the quote, Prometheus gave light to or fire to humans. I don't know exactly, but you know what I'm talking about.
It starts off with a little drawing depiction of a very famous Roman story.
Which, yeah, some of the metaphors that they use to tell Oppenheimer's what he's going through.
Yeah.
Clever.
But as we get into it, he's instantly, as we get into it, he's on trial. And we hop in, we're kind of like, whoa, what is going on?
Oh, yeah, with the time.
The way this is structured, they tell you the ending, or they tell you part of the ending, and then they tell you how they got there, and then they tell you the final conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
I love that about this film. They didn't just start from Oppenheimer was a wee little lad. They didn't start there. They didn't tell the whole grand story of Oppenheimer's life. They told it in a way that made it interesting. Mm-hmm. So they obviously start here with he's on trial and he's telling his story to the people that are trying him. And as we see this, we see him going through college, and instantly we see the turmoil he's going through. Instantly. Because we see the flashes of the atoms in the universe in his head. We hear the volume just going up and down and up and down. It's kind of crazy. And then obviously there's the apple. He tries to poison his professor and kill him.
Which is a good character moment for him, showing
how he's not in a good place at that time.
Well, yeah, and how he can
And then he did not
go to extremes.
He did not end up killing the professor, by the way.
Yeah.
Because he was about to kill a very famous scientist, Niels Bohr. He was about to kill because he was about to eat the apple. That would have changed history. Yeah. Right there. If Niels Bohr had been killed.
It's a great moment to show just that he goes to extremes, and right off the bat of the movie, it's not too in your face, but just it's really clever. And yeah, like you were saying, it's like you have the main story as one line, and then you have the end of the story, and by the end they catch up to each other and come together, and it's really satisfying. It's not the first movie to do that, but it utilizes it very well.
Yeah.
Made it a lot more interesting.
So we get through his college days, and then he's at the point, he graduates from college, he heads back to the United States. He is offered a job, and I believe it was Princeton, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
It's Princeton. He's offered a job to work at Princeton, and the new science division, the there's not really been a nuclear science division at the University of Princeton. So Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Strauss or Stratus or whatever he says, if I mispronounce it, I'm sorry. He gives him a job. And Albert Einstein is chilling at that university. And Oppenheimer and Robert Downey Jr.'s character offers to introduce him. He says, I already know him. They walk down, they have a little chat. And then after their chat, Albert Einstein, because they're down at a lake away from the university, Albert Einstein starts walking up to the university. He passes Strauss. And Strauss says something to him. Just says like hello or how you doing. Yeah. He doesn't even look at him.
Completely ignores.
Just completely ignores him and walks by.
And throughout the movie, and especially at this point in the movie, you yourself are kind of thinking, oh, I wonder what... Because Stratus assumes that they said something about him to trigger Einstein ignoring him. And then you kind of find yourself thinking the same thing. You're like, oh, I wonder what they said about him. It doesn't occur to you until the end of the film.
Which we'll get to. You don't have to tell them now. We'll get there. But
they call back to that moment. Really,
they call back to
really
that moment at the final scene of the film. And that final scene is actually used in a lot of cover arts for Oppenheimer. So, eventually, General, aka actor's name, Matt Damon.
Another great actor in this movie.
Another great actor in this movie, you're right. Comes along.
He's in everything.
Yeah, he is in everything. He was in Air earlier this year.
He's just in everything.
And Matt Damon comes along, says, hey, we need you to work on this special project. We're trying to build a bomb. Manhattan Project. Comes along, it's basically what happens.
Which, real quick, if I can say, because I didn't actually say an issue I had with the movie earlier, I feel like after, so he gets out of college and he becomes like a professor.
Yeah.
And then everything you just mentioned, and then the Manhattan Project, I feel like they kind of goof around a little bit with the plot too much in between him getting out of college and the Manhattan Project. There was a bunch of important stuff, but if I were to cut anything out of the movie to make it shorter, I don't know if I'd even cut out 30 minutes, but I would definitely cut some stuff out of then, because it feels like nothing, besides meeting Florence Pugh's character, nothing too much really happens besides...
And the communists.
That and him meeting Einstein and Stratus is important. I'd keep those, and obviously I'd keep most of the scenes, but there's some stuff that's just like...
Unnecessary. Just
unnecessary. Yeah, if I were to cut anything, it'd be that. So after the Manhattan Project starts, first thing he does, goes build a town.
There's some stuff about his communist past. We start hearing about some stuff about his communism that starts coming up. He said it to Stratus earlier. He said, are you not concerned about my past? Stratus like, no, I don't really care.
Yeah.
And he says to Matt Damon, are you sure? Are you concerned about my past? He says, no, I don't really care. The Manhattan Project, he says, build a town and build it fast. So they build a town, they recruit all the top scientists, they start working on the bomb. And at this point, he's already moved on from Florence Pugh, he's on to another girl. I don't really think the female life in this story is really that necessary.
I would say they kind of, my other thing, they kind of didn't pick a side as far as how important the females in his life, his wives, were going to be to the plot and to the film and to his story. Like, they weren't like overshadowed or like ignored or anything. They were a big part of the movie, but they didn't, in hindsight, really have too much of an effect on the plot. They were, I don't know, I feel like they should have just gone all the way, either way. They should have like had them be in it, but not really be important, or make them integral to him.
And at this point, we don't really need to discuss all the kind of unnecessary scenes they have in here. Again, this felt too long. It didn't need to be this stretched out. There's like scenes in the Manhattan Project. There's scenes while he's a professor that just are not necessary.
I could see the way it was released could easily have been like an extended cut, and it would have been appreciated and people would have watched it.
Yeah.
Like.
So.
But that being said, like anything they could have cut, it was still interesting. It's still made for a good movie. It just kind of was too much good movie. But like there was no scenes that were like boring or like why is this even in the movie? It was just kind of more of the same good storytelling, visuals and sound and all that, actors. It was just more of that.
Yeah.
It just didn't need that much. It was already great on its own. Mm-hmm.
They test the bomb. And the test scene is a big scene. Because it's a lot of stress. It could just end the world when they hit that button. It could just blow up.
I love that aspect.
It could blow up the entire world.
It could cause a chain reaction.
You guys probably already knew that because it's advertised in the trailers.
I love whole.
Yeah. At this point in this,
obviously, you know that didn't happen.
Yes.
Because we're here.
We're here.
But it's still.
Oppenheimer, they let the bomb off. And it's all quiet. No one's talking. There's no sound waves. It goes off. You just see this huge explosion. And Cillian Murphy is looking at it. It's just this huge explosion. Everyone's looking at it. Even the German guy that nobody likes for like half of it.
How long would you say there's no sound for?
It's 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
It's 10 whole minutes of no sound. And they're all staring at it. And it's really tense. It's quiet. And then, just like in real life, this sound wave hits. Mm-hmm. And everyone's tossed back.
Yeah.
It's really loud. And just like in real life with an explosion. But the big point here is they did it. And yet again, the way they use sound in just visuals was able to just really draw out the good things in this film, which made me love it. So, yeah, that's really, I mean, after that, they bombed Hiroshima, they bombed Nagasaki, etc.
And yes,
I do
that,
like, another cool thing about this movie, not to cut you off, but I like how they didn't take the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they didn't take that, and they didn't make the big spectacle out of that. They were very smart in making it there.
Yes.
They did not make Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They didn't even show it. I was saying the fact that they didn't show that, they didn't make that into a big spectacle was good, because when you have something as controversial as the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and you have something as devastating to a just certain ethnic group, you're kind of already walking a fine line just by putting this movie out. Mm-hmm. So they were able to stay on the right side of that line by not putting that up on a pedestal. Which was a good idea.
Yeah, because Oppenheimer was it was a celebratory thing when he finished the bomb, and if they followed that up with bombing Hiroshima, it could have definitely been interpreted as So I see what you mean.
So then after we get the bombing, we have the interview scene.
Yeah,
we're always talking about it. You can expand on it.
While they didn't show the explosion of Hiroshima, like the actual bombing, they did definitely show the reactions to it. And the interview scene, he walks in, everyone's cheering, he seems happy, and then he begins speaking. I couldn't quote him on most of the stuff he says, but he's just it's a celebratory thing, but you can see it in his eyes and his demeanor that, like,
he doesn't know if what he did.
He's saying the stuff to get everyone excited. He's not trying to be a downer, but like,
he's
troubled by what he did. And again, to really emphasize that he made the bomb, but he might not necessarily have done with it what the government did with it. And he's kind of wrestling in his mind if he even should have made the bomb in the first place.
He knew it was going to happen. He's just still.
But it's hitting him in this scene, what happened.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing, but it's really hitting him now, and they do a great job. And then all of a sudden, I can't remember, it's like a slow kind of, all of a sudden all the cheers start to fade out, but you can still hear him talking loudly, and you can still see them all cheering, but it kind of signifies that he's not cheering for it anymore.
And you see the person that vaporizes.
Yeah, then all of a sudden the lights get real bright and the sound really intensifies, and then it's as if the room gets nuked, and then everyone's gone from their chairs, it's empty, and it's silent.
And then obviously before that was the dude that got vaporized.
Yeah.
Or he didn't actually, but
it was just all in his mind. It's just really
stepped on like some ashes and bones.
Does a great job showing
Yeah.
what he's going through in this movie
Um,
without him explicitly saying it. It's just it's so great. Visual storytelling and
Yeah.
sound,
So now we get into the final part of the movie.
which
As
final
we're-
part for this movie is like a whole other hour because it is long.
Yeah,
I
it's
think there's like 50-ish minutes at this point left, but yeah, the final part of the movie.
yeah. What I mean is the end of
Yeah.
the trial, which is probably about 20-25 minutes long. I'm talking like end to end.
Mhm.
So it's revealed here Stratus has really been the villain the whole time. He's leaked this stuff to get Oppenheimer in trouble about communism, which Oppenheimer eventually does get cleared. And Stratus, who's getting affirmed into some government position, I forget what. But Rami Malek, who appeared earlier in the movie for like 5 seconds, no one really even knew what his whole thing was. He's just kind of there, and then he like shows up and like, this dude is not a good guy, and testifies all this stuff, why he should not be in, and he's not invoked in or inaugurated, I guess I should say. So to that position, so Stratus loses and Oppenheimer wins, I guess I'd say. But it's not even really about that. It's all about the turmoil within Oppenheimer, and that ends the movie. There's a nice John F. Kennedy nod in there.
Yeah.
He was one of the people that voted against Stratus and for Oppenheimer to be cleared. So there's a nice nod in there, and that really final scene of the
Some
movie.
governor trying to make a name for himself, Kennedy, John F. Kennedy. It's like, what?
Yeah. So final scene of the movie, they show what Oppenheimer really said to Einstein.
Yes.
And what he said,
Concerned Stratus, not at all. It was completely
it was not about
him.
Stratus at all. It was about, he didn't know,
I think it was the chain reaction thing.
Yeah, he didn't know if what he was about to start working on would just completely end the world. And he was talking to Einstein about that. So it was a really tense moment where you realize Oppenheimer, he's torn right before the bomb. And you realize, oh wait, as he's making this thing, he's looking like he's really trying to make it quick and he's excited it's working. But you can tell it just by little expressions on his face or little sound bites that the movie throws in. He's not sure if what he's doing is right. And that definitely becomes apparent after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki are bombed. So, and that's the movie.
But to me, the whole point of that scene where it shows what he actually said to Einstein was just to say, that like, it's a good message of how there are more important things happening than me and you. Stratus, maybe this wasn't like his main argument against Oppenheimer, but it was kind of a bad first impression. He thought, oh, this is a new scientist that I just recruited. He's going and talking about Einstein, something about me. He's spreading rumors now Einstein doesn't like me, what gives? When in actuality, it had nothing to do with him because the ending of the world is far more important than anything Oppenheimer could have said about Louis Strauss. And it just shows, not necessarily that he was like an evil man or anything, Stratus, but just that he thinks a lot of himself, and that this little interaction where Einstein ignored him, he just thought it was because of him, and that there are more important things going on.
Yeah.
They were talking about the ending of the world, not...
Yeah, it's intense stuff. It's big stuff in this particular movie. It's kind of hard to think about because like it's a really intense film, obviously, and it hits hard. So, any closing thoughts on this movie?
Well, it is an intense film, but it doesn't try too hard to be intense. It's so good at being because like in actuality, at face value, in a vacuum, this movie is a lot of people in rooms, in board meetings, in a laboratory talking about stuff that would usually just go straight over your head. It's just kind of, it would seem like a boring movie if you just kind of explained plot point for plot point what happened. But when you're watching it, they don't need action. They don't need people yelling at each other. They don't need to be cursing every 5 words. It's just tense through what is it happening. A lot of that, as we've said, is just through Christopher Nolan's directing and the visuals and the storytelling and sound. They use that to their greatest advantage to make it a movie where men are talking in a room, very intense. And in today's world with cinema, where like the highest grossing movies are blockbusters and superhero movies and sequels with like just absolute just
outlandish stuff,
budgets and CGI and all this stuff, it's kind of nice that a film like this set in the 1940s that's like 3 hours long about men talking to each other is doing as well as it is. And no one could have done that like Christopher Nolan could, I don't think. I think he was perfect for this movie.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna about wrap us up here for our very first review, Oppenheimer review. We're seeing Blue Beetle here in just an hour or two, so we're gonna go ahead to that, which I'm excited for, and then we're gonna get a review out for that very soon because I know the hype is around. Opening day was yesterday, so we're headed off to see it today.
So leave in the comments if you haven't seen it already, or if you have seen it without spoilers. How is Blue Beetle? How do you think Blue Beetle's gonna be?
And any reviews you want us to do in the future. We do we do want to listen to you guys.
I know me personally, I didn't really have super high expectations for Blue Beetle. Wow. No, Blue Beetle. I knew it was coming out, but I didn't really care, to be honest. But I'm excited now because I'm hearing, at least from the before it came out, reviewers saying it was better than expected. It's just a fun movie. That's always nice to see.
Yeah.
I'm curious if it'll is this technically the beginning of the new DC universe? It's kind of a mess.
Technically the end or the middle.
Yeah.
Or it's supposedly the end, but
I'm
at
curious
this
how
point
it's
they're
gonna fit
also
in.
saying Blue Beetle, this character, this story will also play into the new DCU, and that Blue Beetle will be in it, and that Wonder Woman will be in it, but there's going to be a new Superman and a new Batman and a new Flash.
It's kind of a mess, but it'll be
But
interesting.
Aquaman's staying the same too.
Aquaman,
So they want Jason Momoa because he's a big name. So
But yes, let us know any reviews you want us to do in the future. Comment whatever you want in the comments. As far as this channel is concerned, we'll
look at them.
look at everything. And
All right. We'll
have a
see you
good
guys in the next review. Again, leave down in the comments what you want us to do next. Barbie, Blue Beetle,
we're gonna get to Barbie.
Mission Impossible, Dead
We're gonna
Reckoning.
get to Across the Spider-Verse. We got it.
Across
Also,
the Spider-Verse. We've seen them all. At this
I've
point.
seen them all.
Indiana Jones. I really like that.
We are gonna have. It might be a little too early for this. As I don't think it's gonna be our second video or anything, but a hot takes video. I'm really excited for that.
I'm
You
excited
gotta have
for
a hot
that.
takes video.
We gotta,
I have
we
one
should
hot take
and
that I really want to say.
At the end of the year, we should have a hot takes live stream and see how it goes. That'd be
Yeah,
pretty fun.
yeah,
That'd be pretty
yes. At the end of the year. No, yeah, we'll do that.
But yeah, everybody have a good day and keep watching movies.